Hi, we're going to start focusing on both the habits of health and living a longer and healthier life. That's what I also refer to as the workbook or the companion guide, because they just completed a study. We already know that diets don't work. 85% of the people that go on a diet fail. We do know that the 5-in-1 program works, but if you're coached, you're twice as likely to be successful in getting to your long-term healthy weight and maintaining it long-term. Well, they looked at that subgroup and they said, who does the best among them? And those were the people that read Dr. A's Habits of Health and did the workbook. So we thought we'd start focusing with lessons from the workbook. So before we start on that, I want to talk about the introduction, where Dr. Anderson talks about success and how any big project really starts with education, learning what you know, then doing it, and then going back and reviewing your results and making corrections, and then repeating the process. They said that the Apollo trip to the moon, they'd never been to the moon before. So they studied up all they could. They made a plan, and then it was time, and they just did it. They launched. But 90% of the time, they were off course. But what did they do? They reviewed where they were. They made corrections, and they repeated the process. And that's what we do in life. This is a life journey. There are times when maybe you're not going to make the best decision, but that's okay. You know what you know, you reevaluate, you make corrections, and you continue on. And that's how you'll become successful. And we build on a platform of success. So in lesson 1, he talks about how we're kind of designed for failure. Our bodies are designed like for cavemen. Back then, they really had to work hard to get their food. And it was literally feast or famine. They'd get a bear. They'd have all this food to eat. They had no way to preserve it. They'd eat it, and then it would be gone. And their bodies would store fat really well and keep them alive through the lean times until they found another animal. Same thing if you were a gatherer. There are seasons where things are plentiful, and then there are seasons where it's pretty slim pickings. And to get either one of those took a lot of energy. It took a lot of work. We'll fast forward to now. Here we have fast food everywhere. And it's very, very high in calories. It's high in salt. It's high in high fructose corn syrup and preservatives and all kinds of pollution, really. And the high glycemic content really turns on the insulin pump, which is our fat storage machine. And then to boot, that we store fat when our calories in are more than our calories out. Well, it doesn't take a whole lot of effort to drive through and get fast food. And now we've got all these electronic devices, so it doesn't take very much energy to get through a day. And if you do just a little exercise of the way you ate before a program, where you think of a typical day, and you can go online and get all kinds of free apps for calculating calories from different foods. You can list out the calories for a day, and then you can also find out the calories that you've burned, and you can see why. Why did you gain weight? It's pretty clear when you look at that. Well, on top of that, after the age of 20, we're losing on the average a pound of muscle a year. And every pound of muscle burns on an average of 60 calories for 24 hours. So by the time you're 40, you've already lost 1,400 calories worth of free burn. So if you eat exactly the way you ate when you were skinny when you were 20, you're going to be gaining weight when you're 40, even if you kept everything else the same. So it's really time to take control of our lives. And I think the most important point from lesson 1 is to let you start thinking about the difference between problem solving and creation. Or we might say the difference between being not sick versus being healthy. Most people think they're healthy because maybe they're not sick yet. It's like, as a physician, someone comes in with a problem. Oh, I've got a headache, my blood pressure's really high. Great. Put them on medicine, problem fixed. But it doesn't really take care of the underlying issue, does it? And so what we're about to do is go on a journey where you're going to learn the habits of health so that you aren't just solving problems. You're going to learn how to create what you want, and you're going to learn how to sustain optimal health. So I'm excited to have you on the journey. We'll talk to you next week.